Good afternoon, guys. It's Vince and Drew with Power 5 Fanatics doing a video where we give you our takeaways from the previous week, which was week 9 in college football.
Yep.
And there's always a lot of good takeaways from every week, especially when you have a weekend like we had with the
chaos.
Yeah, more chaos. Obviously, a lot of things change. Our first takeaway is mine from the Pac-12. And, a month and a half ago, I'm thinking Pac-12, no way they're going to get anybody in the playoff, because I'm thinking that the Pac-12 winner is probably going to have 2 losses, just because the conference overall was more solid in the middle, okay, than it is now. And it's changed in the last 2 to 3 weeks. It happened pretty fast, maybe the last month, where you had teams like Arizona State, Arizona, have regressed.
UCLA's gotten better.
Yeah, then
Oregon
you've had a few
better.
that have gotten better. UCLA's gotten better. Colorado's kind of stayed the same, but you've had some shifting in the middle. And it used to be, in my opinion, the Pac-12 was very solid. You know, from let's say the 4th best team to the 10th best team was more solid than most.
Our
conferences.
perception of Washington State has changed, and
they've
Arizona
regressed.
State after.
And Arizona State have just fallen off.
Well, after beating Michigan State for a second year in a row, and it's Herm Edwards' second season, you're kind of thinking, okay, this Arizona State team, and not that they're not a good team, but that they're actually a legitimate team, and that perception's kind of changed. I feel like now they're kind of not playing.
So
as good.
My point is, the teams that I thought were going to. To take a W from some of the high-end teams. I'm talking about the Utahs, Oregons, and and Washingtons of the Pac-12. Or Cal's another one that's regressed, definitely.
Absolutely.
But I thought they were going to get more wins against the higher-end schools. But then Utah and Oregon have gotten better, and their I know their defense of Oregon is been a little bit weak lately, but they're still winning games.
And they're playing better competition too.
So Utah and Oregon are pulling away from them, and I really believe at this point, whoever ends up winning the Pac-12, whether it's Utah or Oregon, I think they can get it done where they just have 1 loss. I think they will be in the playoffs. Yeah. So, there's still a lot of big ifs. Whoever ends up winning has got to get through with just the 1 loss. But if that happens, I don't think there's any way they're going to be able to hold them out of the playoffs at that point.
And both teams, the top 2 teams' losses aren't bad. Oregon lost to Auburn, and Utah lost to USC.
USC, right.
Yeah, so and USC, our perceptions change on them as well. It's gotten a lot better. They lost to BYU early in the season. And then
ever since then, they've been
Auburn,
a lot better.
My perception's different now, too. I have more respect for Auburn than I did when they beat Oregon. So I think that the general perception of these teams has gotten better.
Their losses aren't bad, and they were early in the season.
Yeah, and they're able to kind of bounce back on those. And, they're still – Utah is definitely starting to kind of hit a peak. And, they're starting to kind of peak at the right time.
Definitely.
And Oregon is, they kind of peaked early, and now they're kind of flattening out a little bit. But I still think they have
their
offense
to get better. Is still very good.
Because their offense – has not peaked yet.
No.
They still have some. C.J. Verdell, their running back, and of course they have potentially the top quarterback, Justin Herbert, and they got some great skill players and one of the best offensive lines, So I think that they still have some room to peak. So we'll see kind of how the Pac-12.
I think they're pulling away though from the rest of the Pac-12. That's pretty much my takeaway. What Drew's got? What's your takeaway?
Yeah. So this was kind of already known, but at this point, Wisconsin may not even win their division. And a couple weeks ago, they were a playoff contender. Especially before the Illinois loss. We were looking at Wisconsin as, they got a Heisman running back, potentially. They got the best defense in the country. It's not even close.
Yeah.
They're consistently beating down teams, just dominating them. And the past 2 weeks, they've been dominated. Yeah. I say they've been.
It's changed a lot in the month of October.
And Minnesota has kind of pulled away. And
at this point, Minnesota just seems like a better team.
And that doesn't really surprise a whole lot of people. A lot of people did pick Minnesota to be a dark horse contender. a lot of people thought Nebraska or Wisconsin preseason was going to be kind of the favorite. But look at here now. Minnesota's undefeated, and they look to be a legit undefeated team. I mean, maybe getting a little bit not enough credit, on where they're ranked in the AP poll. They might be a little bit better than where they're ranked. So that's going to be interesting. They still have to play each other, Minnesota and Wisconsin, but Wisconsin's got to hope that Minnesota loses a game.
Yeah, they're still going to have a little bit of help.
Because they're 2 games behind Minnesota. So that's pretty surprising to me, and that's changed. That's changed in the past couple weeks.
Yeah, it happened fast. Our third takeaway is Clemson. I think maybe they're reading their press clippings going, over the summer. They didn't start off with exactly a bang. I'd say their best win early on in the first month was A&M, Texas A&M. Their offense just wasn't clicking. Of course, they almost lose to North Carolina. And that really, at that point, everyone's like, well, look, I think they're just here on, merit alone of being the national champions. And that might have been part of it. Obviously, they started out high. But at this point, they're starting to look more like they're going to be in the playoffs because their offense, Trevor Lawrence, he had his best game of the year last Saturday, 3 touchdowns. I think he was like 85% clip. 285, whatever. It's kind of Heisman type stuff. I don't think he's going to win the Heisman, but it's kind of stuff you'd expect from a quarterback with his skills. But and their defense is probably playing better right now than it was. So my takeaway is they're going to be in the playoffs because I don't see how anybody in the world in the ACC right now can take that juggernaut on. And it's just, I don't see how in the world they're not going to be undefeated, 13-0 as a playoff participant. And when they get there, I'm not saying they're going to win the national title again because that's going to be a big if this year. But I think they will. Of all the teams in college football, I think they have the greatest chance of getting there.
They. I think that they're peaking right now, and we've seen them do this before. This is not the first year that they've had a scare or they've been upset. I mean, a few years ago, they got beat pretty late in the season by Pitt and Syracuse. And
I think part of it, too, it's young, their team is.
And, they are. And they lost a lot on defense last year.
And now they've played 7-8 games, however many they've played.
And they're well coached. I mean, these guys, Venables and their coordinators and skill position coaches have been there. They've been in the system. These players have.
I don't think they're going to win the national title, but I do think they're going to be in the playoffs, almost a lock. So.
Yeah, I mean they're starting to peak at the right time, and Clemson's getting hot. Trevor Lawrence is getting his season back on track. He was struggling there, like Vince was saying, with the interceptions and the lack of touchdowns, but not anymore. I mean, past couple weeks I feel like he's been playing a lot better. So. That is an interesting takeaway I got as well. The last one that I was thinking on is, when you're looking at the season going into it, the preseason, because we're all excited, July hits, and you start looking at the preseason magazines and Athlon Sports and Lindy's, and the 2 favorites in the SEC were Georgia to win the West. To win the East, I apologize, and then Alabama to win the West. Well, there's a chance now that a preseason dark horse wins both sides of that.
I know, that would be incredible.
The next 2 weeks is going to decide who wins those 2 divisions because we got Georgia playing Florida this week, and that's a huge game. Georgia's a 6-point favorite. And then next week after the bye week between LSU and
the game of the
Alabama,
century, at least for this year,
where they'll be number 1 and 2 because that's where they're ranked.
I just say Tua. I believe he's going to play.
I think he was back at practice.
I don't think there's any way in the world he can miss that unless he's on crutches.
He's playing. They're not going to risk not having him there. Even if Mac Jones is a great backup.
Well, I mean, they got to win.
They got to win.
Yeah,
and it's for. This is for the season.
Yeah.
They don't come into the season wanting to win the
They
SEC.
don't have enough. Alabama doesn't have enough. Their resumes not near as good as LSU's, and so they're not going to have a chance to recover. I don't think. I think they got to win it.
Yeah, they do. And so you have a chance here though that the 2 underdogs, dark horses, LSU could win in 2 weeks, and then Florida could beat Georgia this weekend. And then all of a sudden, I mean, the SEC is going to run through LSU and Florida. And that's pretty crazy.
Pretty amazing. Yeah, you
I
think
mean,
you might see one of those, but that it
well,
could potentially happen on both sides.
Who are the favorites to win? And forget like their division or conference. Who are the favorites to win a national title this year? Alabama, Georgia, and Clemson was who everyone was looking at.
And Ohio State, maybe to a lesser degree. A little bit.
Yeah. But I mean, even them,
those three
weren't
would
quite
be the top
as highly viewed as those teams. And here we are looking at it, and Georgia and Alabama are having to, fight for their supremacy in the SEC. So
there's more parity in the SEC this year, definitely,
and it's exciting.
It's still the best conference without a doubt. Well, hey guys, like, subscribe, share. Let us know what you think about takeaways. We're a little past the midpoint of the season, and looking forward to some more great football in the next couple weeks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.